Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. I'm one of your hosts, David Gessler, and I'm here with a brand new episode with my good buddy Matt Swift. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Hello. How's it going, David?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good, especially after a victory, I guess you could say, from last night. And got our producer extraordinaire in the background here, Corey Ensko. No, you don't want to talk too much, but Corey, hello again.
A very quote unquote victory podcast here. So yeah, good. I'm doing well. How y'all doing?
Good, man. Good.
Corey's very tan. He's back from the beach.
He is very tan. It's he's like glowing. He's like a golden god down there.
There you go. Never heard that one before. I'll take it.
There you go. Well, glad to have the gang back together. It's been a little bit. I know the summer's been wonky from a episode perspective, but we're right back on the train again and ready to do something a little bit different. We're gonna have some different topics to come through and bullet points, and I guess I don't want to say first takey kind of takes here, but we've got some topics to come up here. So Swift, Corey, let's get ready to dive into this and pull up the comments here a little bit. So last night we had a little bit of a different starting 11, Swift. So I know there was a lot of hubbub from the Philadelphia starting 11, and then this one kind of took me off guard. What are your thoughts from the starting 11 last night?
Well, we were trying to figure out if we were going to rotate players, if we were going to rest anybody. We talked a little bit about concerns about our center backs and all the minutes that they've been playing, but it looks like our outside backs are the ones that we're rotating a little bit. But with Byrne picking up a slight injury, a toe injury, Jalen Lindsey slides in. So not a huge shocker. I guess the big shock was no Kahlina. But that kind of worked out this game.
It did.
Bingham has had 0 minutes and stepped in, and boy, did he have himself a night.
Yeah, I think I saw online or during the game they announced that he hasn't started or had minutes in goal officially since he played for Portland last game of last season. So it's been a good bit of time. I just out of curiosity, like I know people were wondering if Dean Smith is going to use Leagues Cup to kind of go all out for this or have this tournament, or is he going to kind of use it to rotate, figure out depth, rest players? When you first saw that roster come up, what was your impression? Do you think he was like, I'm going for it? Is he resting players? What's your thoughts just from a tactics perspective?
Well, I think the rest of the lineup is, perfectly fine. I've been wanting to see Pekovic. That was kind of another outlier that I was kind of interested in, but everything else seemed pretty straightforward. Just with Kahlina not starting, I was like, is that to rest? Is that to get another player some minutes? This is a good opportunity to do so. Is there some kind of and we had Jose Nunez on Soccer and Coffee, and he mentioned players getting bonuses for this tournament and things like that and getting paid extra. So I don't know if there's something with that maybe. So but yeah, whatever the case is, whatever situation, it certainly worked out for us.
Yeah, that was one of the things that stood out to me, and so I'll jump to David here in just a second. But seeing Nikola start, which was great. What do you think about having Swiderski back in the starting 11, especially being in a Leagues Cup game? Because the last week we had Pat start and was not a pretty game. Dean Smith even said that he's been famously quoted after his post game interview, and our friend of the show Jose actually clipped it and was saying that. Dean was like, that was not even like a League Two game in England. Like it was that bad of a match. There was like one shot on goal, which was the one Philadelphia goal. And Pat was, linked to that as a starting number 9. So is that an indicator of him being not happy with Pat, or what do you think that is with Dean?
I think there's some, going to be some natural rotation. Again, this is a tournament where you can tinker a little bit. But I think, we've talked about this where we think the dynamic will be Swiderski starting and then Pat comes in with fresh legs. Or you might have a situation like we saw. We have them both on the field. And a lot of people have been calling for that. I don't know. I need to see maybe a little more. But my first thought is I don't like it. So, but we'll see how it goes. Again, we keep saying this literally every episode for like 3 years now that we need a number 10. So that way Swiderski doesn't have to slide back. But anyway, I didn't read too much into it, but again, the quality that you have in Swiderski, you got to find a way to start him. So that didn't really do too much for me as far as kind of like head scratching.
Are you happy with Nikola being a 10 in this kind of like lineup, or is this kind of trying to see what we can figure out while we figure out the summer window in the next 2 weeks?
I like him as a player. I don't think he's well suited to be that dynamic playmaker, creative, fast dribbler, can take on two players and beat them somehow. I think he's more straight up possession. He can pass the ball well. I think he gives you some defensive. He has some defensive prowess too. So, but on the night, I didn't think he had his best game. If we want to talk about Pekovic a little bit, and I probably would have pulled him maybe a little sooner. We'll talk about subs later because I was a little, I don't know, but
all over the place.
Yeah, and kind of going back to that Philly game real quick. That was a dumpster fire of a game, and I like that Dean. He made some excuses about the pitch, and the pitch was horrible. And again, going back to Jose, I think he put something out about how many games were being played on that field, what all was going on. So the field was horrible, but Dean also didn't just say, "Hey, the field was horrible, that's why we lost." He was just like, "We played like crap. It was the worst game we played." It was pretty anemic offensively. I thought the starting lineup was wrong. I thought his subs were wrong. It was just a horrible night. So I'm glad that we've moved on past that. But I wanted to touch on the Philly game real quick because it was pretty atrocious.
So now let's talk about the main event here a little bit. So we're talking about Leagues Cup, and Corey, like we had this document kind of talking through like thoughts and I guess thought provokers, right? And one of the things Corey put in here was that I cannot bring myself to actually care about this tournament. So not to put you on the spot, Corey, but do you want to kind of elaborate on that for a second, and then Swift and me can kind of riff off of that, or what?
Sure. So two things, and I'll qualify it by saying I care about how Charlotte FC plays in this tournament, right? Like I want to see how we play, especially rotating the squad a little bit, seeing some guys who don't get as much minutes getting a chance to play. Like I do want to see that and how we perform. I'm not wanting us to just walk out and get clobbered and play awful soccer, but I didn't watch the Philadelphia match. Like I was busy. There were some other things going on, but like I definitely didn't prioritize it. And then after I saw the score and heard about the match, I definitely didn't rewatch it. So I have not watched that match because they were like, everybody I talked to was like, don't waste your time. Yeah, exactly. So I haven't watched that. And then it really hit me though yesterday in the stadium when the game went to penalties, which I forgot was a thing that happened. And then I guess it was actually after we won it. Someone around me was like, "All right, we got to watch and see, what Philadelphia does against Cruz Azul, and got to really see if we can get to the next knockout stage." And I was like, I said it out loud. I was like, "Is it bad that I do not care what happens between Philadelphia and Cruz Azul? Like, I don't care if we make it to the next round. Like, I don't know what it is about like this tournament, but it just does nothing for me. I don't really care if we do well in it. It's kind of a nice thing to play some teams you don't normally get to play, but it just doesn't do anything for me. I much more prefer to like focus on let's get back to the MLS matches because we're in a really good position and can finish this game strong and go to the playoffs. Like playing kind of semi-meaningless games against like the Mexican league doesn't do anything for me. So I don't know. Like it was just kind of this moment I had in the stadium when someone was talking about like, talking about through all the scenarios, which also Charlotte FC website published like all the scenarios for how to get through the next round. And it just made me laugh because it was so ridiculous, but all the different scenarios I had to lay out. But I was like, I just like when they said it in that moment, I was like, no, like I might half pay attention to that score, and then if we play again, great. But I don't really actually care if we advance in this tournament.
So I kind of, I don't know. I somewhat agree with you, Corey, but then I somewhat don't. Like, so I agree with you that I'm just like playing MLS teams again. I'm like meh about. It was kind of cool to see them play against Cruz Azul, just from a different league, different
Sure.
style of play, just to see how we match up. Like they're first in their league right now. Granted, their season I think just started or about to start, or
Yeah,
they're
just
only a few
started.
games in.
They're like
So
I think they're like 3 or 4 games in or something
got
like
it.
that.
So like that can easily change, but they're still first place, quote unquote, in their league. But like it got intense in that second half, and that's what I enjoyed seeing. And I it was a competitive game, but I just
Again,
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
not saying I don't want us to do well, and I'm not saying it. What that was the fun part was playing a team from a different league. That was cool.
Sure.
What I'm saying is I do not care if we make it to the next round.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I have no interest in like actually trying to win this thing. It does. It just doesn't. Maybe if we got to the final, then I would obviously care about that when I got to that point. But like right now, I'm like, if that's the last Leagues Cup game of the year, cool. Let's move on and keep playing MLS.
So that's what I was about to say is that like, I guess building off of it is that I do care about it, but I think it's not a great reason because I selfishly are like, I want to watch more Charlotte games for the next 3 weeks. And if we don't move on, then we don't have any other games to watch to me that I care about until the end of August. But that's not a good reason to cheer for the move on is like, oh, I just want to watch more games. But Swift, what are your thoughts on it? Should Corey care about this?
Yeah. Why should I care, Matt? Tell me why should I care?
Well, first, David, that's exactly why you should care about the tournament because you just said it. Like you want to see Charlotte play more games, so you should care if they. But so the reason why, and we've talked about this before, this kind of dumb Open Cup versus Leagues Cup thing. I don't know why it has to be like a versus thing, but the reason why I like it is that one, the players are going to get paid. Now, someone like Westwood is not going to, make too much of a difference, but people like Pat, I mean, they're going to get paid more. People like Bingham, so there's that. And then, we always talk about growing the sport here in the US. So we talk about it all the time, right? And I'm sorry, this is going to piss everybody off. Growing the sport here is not by playing the Richmond Kickers. Again,
no. I'm going to stop you. I'm not trying to make a Leagues Cup versus Open Cup debate.
Right.
I just want you to tell me why I should care about this damn tournament.
I'm trying to tell you. Because we're trying. One of the reasons why you should care is we're trying to grow the sport here. So we just had 30,000 fans at our stadium, which
we normally do.
Which opposed to the Open Cup, we couldn't even get 3,000.
I'm not comparing the two.
Well, I understand that, but you're asking me why you should care about this tournament. One, we're in it. Two, we're playing a high-profile league that's really, really good. Okay, and then we're actually playing games, so we don't have a break. The players are actually getting paid. There's more money coming to this. So, and you don't get to see us play teams like this. And it's not just one of these like one-off like international games like Chelsea or something like that. So it's a tournament. It's a trophy. We're in it. We're playing really good teams. But I do see what you're saying, Corey, about like, I just want to get back to the MLS season because we're actually good this year. And like, we've been playing well. So I get that, but I don't know. Again, I go back to Open Cup. Open Cup's a tournament for a trophy. Why is, what's the difference? And Corey, I don't know if you actually like the Open Cup or not. So if you don't,
that's why I was trying to like make the point is like, I'm not saying I'm not trying to compare the two because I'm kind of mad on the Open Cup. Like the Open Cup was fun because you got to see them close up in a small stadium. Like that was kind of cool. In the same way, it was cool to see like us play like a high level Mexican team. Like that is cool. Like that little piece of it is cool. I guess what I'm saying is like and all the points you're making are logically totally legit. I do not care if we advance in this tournament at all. I can't bring myself to care about it.
Is that because of like the other games don't interest you or like, because I mean, it's for a trophy It's for
I think
prestige,
it's
just like anything else, like MLS Cup.
But is it?
so. I think it's because
Yeah.
it's so new, though, Corey. So to play devil's advocate here, I think it's because we're also in its infancy for it, right? I think if you have more games like we saw last night, where teams get heated between each other, especially from Liga
Yeah.
MXE and MLS, where if the teams start to get heated and it becomes competitive, like imagine it just be crazy luck of the draw if we play Cruz Azul again next year and it's in Charlotte again, and then it's like, oh, like okay, third time in a row, and it's going to get spicy and heated. Like that, I think would be like, okay, cool. Like that's going to be unique matches that you can tell the players want to win, which would make me care about it more. Now, is it going to be,
Yeah.
am I jonesing to see Philadelphia and Charlotte play for the fourth time in, 3 months? No, not really. But that's what I'm looking forward to most, is to see how we stack up compared to other leagues that are quote unquote at MLS's level.
I don't know. I mean, I see all the points you're saying, and I recognize that I don't have a good reason why I don't care about it. I'm just saying that I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not a good argument, but it's probably some point about it being new,
Sure.
and that it's not really, it's just only its second year, so it doesn't have any kind of like real like mystique or whatever behind it, like tradition behind it. It does, and I'm not trying to wade into this debate because I'm not saying it's either or, but it does feel very manufactured. Like it just feels like
it 100% is
a big old money grab, and like I don't know. It feels not like a real match. The only reason yesterday was, what was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. The only reason Wednesday night was interesting was because of the like opposing fan bases being very excited about the match, is the way I'll put it. Like that, like the atmosphere in the stadium was really cool. The soccer was bad, and it was against Philadelphia apparently too. Like it's not. I don't know. It's just like I watched. I hear about the Philadelphia game. I watched that match, and I'm like, I don't need to see this anymore. Like I'm good. Let's get back to games that actually matter. So I don't know. That's just, again, I don't have a good reason. I recognize that your points are valid, but that's kind of where I'm at with this one.
So just to piggyback off this same conversation, because they brought it up on the broadcast, because I know you two were at the game last night and I was watching it and listening. So one of the things they brought up in the broadcast was that Charlotte's in sixth place. They're doing really well. They ended going into this Leagues Cup break on quote unquote a high note, where they just, drew two of the top two teams in the East, and then drew a tough Austin team, typically or historically, maybe not so much this year, but the past few years. So ending it on a high note, would you want, and I'll direct this more towards you, Swift, first, but would you want Charlotte to do really well in this cup and then be gassed heading into the fall, and then MLS kind of falters, we go from 6th to 8th because whatever reasons? Or would you rather us get out early and focus on the next 2 to 3 weeks, getting our roster set and getting players more acclimated, getting more set pieces figured out, and then being ready to rock and roll come late August?
I guess there's always a worry of burnout with any other games, friendlies, tournaments, stuff like that. But I think too, this helped us last year get players minutes, get acclimated to the team. We're going to get some new additions to the team. So I certainly see the benefit of it, but I can understand that people, again, want to get back to the league play because we were doing so well. So there is this natural, thought of like, no, let's get out early. And so we can focus. But, if we are to not make it past Saturday, we don't play again to the 24th. And I think that's kind of a problem. And people are always touting like, oh, rest is good. I'm like, I don't know. In every sport that I've seen, teams that come off like an extra week's rest, they just don't seem as sharp. And that's kind of worrisome. Once we start, back again, we are playing at home on the 24th, I believe. So I don't know. Like I would like to have a good run in this tournament. Again,
I was just gonna say it's like hockey. It's like hockey playoffs. Whenever that really hot team goes on a sweep and wins 4 games in a row, and then they have a long break because the next place team that they're supposed to play goes to 7 games, and all of a sudden there's a gap there. Then they play the first game, and the team's been on fire, just came back in a game 7, whatever it is, and now they've had a week and a half worth of rest,
Yeah.
and they're kind of quote unquote rusty, right? So I see what you're saying there, Swift.
Yeah, there's a weird kind of fine balance to it. There's good and bad with mid-season friendlies or tournaments and stuff like that, and it could go either way. But I think I lean more towards doing well in this tournament as we get players in. They can play in this tournament, hopefully, if we can get them in quickly. So, I hope we do well. But I think the cool thing about these tournaments is that we have a huge Latino population, especially here in North Carolina, and they're able to see teams that they typically don't, or maybe see teams where they've either rooted against or they rooted for. And it just brings new people to the stadium. And I guess, too, that's one of the reasons why I like this tournament. And make no mistake, I like the Open Cup. I'll say that. And I wish we could do both. I really do. The money grab thing, I've never understood that part because everything's a money grab. Literally.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, that's very true.
It's just,
too,
it just feels manufactured, I guess.
And the manufactured thing, I people have said a lot of that too, but it's a new tournament. And I think what MLS wants to do is, one of the reasons why they don't want to do Open Cup anymore is, one, they don't have to fund everything, but two, like they want to play higher profile teams that are well known. And it's just one of those things. There's like, okay, we can make money over here, grow the league, play these really way better teams, or we foot the bill to play the Kickers again for the 100th year. So I don't know. I like both. Yeah, they kind of rubbed me the wrong way when we played them before. But I mean, I like the notion of, like, it'd be really cool if Charlotte FC could play Appalachian FC. I would love that. But I mean, I don't know. So we could have a whole other debate about the two things, but I don't know. I know. I think it's been great.
I know why Corey thinks it's manufactured, Swift. It's because it has its own theme song, and they didn't ask Corey to write the song for him. So that's the reason why. So
we need a new song, guys. We need a new song.
I will say, one thing I liked about the match experience this time was that they didn't try to make it that neutral site like they did last time.
Mm-hmm.
They actually, I mean, they clearly had some things that were purely Leagues Cup, the way they did the announcements and certain things like that. But like, they did all the normal Charlotte FC, or not all of them, but a lot of the normal Charlotte FC home match things. Which I did appreciate that, because I feel like last year it was weird to sit in a Charlotte FC match in that stadium and like
have
not
no Peppas and things like that.
And like not do any of the stuff that we're used to doing. It was kind of like, that's silly. Like, if we're gonna be a home team, like, let's be a home team. So I did appreciate that. They're clearly improving on it as they go along. And again, like, the final thing I say is, like, I see all of your points. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with the points. I'm just telling you that in my heart, I realized in that moment in the stadium, I do not care.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, even if it's a tournament that's been around forever, and like, there's just some seasons you're just like, I don't know, just not into it. Like, and the thing is, if we don't make it past Saturday, I'm not gonna be like, dang. I'm like, all right, like, okay.
I'm gonna need a 5-page tweet from Swift if we don't make it past this round and break down and freak out. No, I'm just joking. So, but no, sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Corey. As a second question about,
I just want to say I'm glad at this episode I actually got to rant about something soccer related, not just random things that make me angry. This was at least a rant about a soccer related issue. So
not
making progress here, guys. Making progress.
So I want to bring this up, this next one, because you put in here a little bit, Corey, and I put in here, and I put a picture of him in here, so we're going to pull this majestic photo up. But David Bingham, or just to kind of talk through him just for a second, Swift. So backup, kind of brought in, I don't want to say league minimum, but it was not on anyone's radar. From earlier in the season, he played pretty lights out in this game, Swift. I mean,
he did.
What do you think from his performance in this, especially for not playing any minutes at all this season, and then us having a all-star caliber keeper get put on the bench just the rest while he played for us?
That's the thing, having no minutes on the season, coming into a tournament, and then he makes this fantastic reaction save I forgot what minute it was, and I was just like, holy crap. I mean, he was pretty solid all match, but that one
Yeah.
in particular,
Yeah.
he's a veteran. I think he's like 34. He's been around the league, and I mean, his reactions were great. And then not only that, then to be called upon in a shootout and save two shots, it's pretty impressive. So it kind of opened my eyes a little bit. I'm like, man, we're pretty well off at the goalkeeper position, no matter what. It gives me a lot of confidence now, because I honestly didn't know what to expect with him in the net. So
yeah, that was really shocking to see that. Personally speaking, when I saw the starting 11, I was kind of like, huh, that kind of like put me off for a second. But I'm really glad it worked out. But
there was a kid behind me. I call him kid. He's probably, he was drinking, so I'm hoping he was at least 21. He was. And he's never sat behind us before. He had his family, and a couple of them were Cruz Azul fans, but he was a Charlotte FC fan, so he was giving his buddies, which was an older gentleman, like all types of hell all night about it. But he was so mad that Kahlina was not starting. I mean, cussing, like just so unbelievably mad. But during the course of the game, and then after he made that one like spectacular save, he was like, oh damn, I didn't know about this dude. He's like going on and on. So it was really funny to watch the progression in the match, because he was so mad that Kahlina was not starting.
It reminds me of like, it's not to this extreme, but a few years ago, where like Hurricanes had a bunch of like injured keepers or goalies, and they just called some like guy off of like the Zamboni to come be their keeper and goalie, and he just like plays lights out and gets them and all that stuff. I'm not saying that David's at that stage, like he just got called off the streets or anything like that, but he came in and made an immediate impact. The only thing that he did scare me a few times during the game with his like ball movement a little bit and his passes. There was a few moments that were kind of like, but he hasn't played at all this season, so I kind of get the rustiness there.
He's never been, I would say, great at that, and he's definitely not as good as or as polished now as Kahlina is now. Now, Kahlina, the first 2 years it was kind of sketchy,
like a running
himself.
joke,
But he's gotten a lot better, and Bingham, his distribution wasn't the best, and footwork is not as good as Kahlina. But man, reaction saves, the way he handled situations, and then the shootout was pretty spectacular.
So transitioning to a little bit later in the game, and we mentioned a little bit earlier about the feistiness and the, I guess, how I guess flared up the tempers got in the second half a little bit, because and even the announcer said in the first half, like, and I think Lloyd Sam mentioned like Charlotte was playing a little bit more reserved and were not as physical as they could have been in the first half, and then second half he made a comment. He's like, man, they're coming back out and they're being a lot more physical. Ashley Westwood's putting his hands on players. Brant Bronico's putting a little bit more oomph into his tackles. And there is a moment, and I just want to bring up this first moment here, Swift, because I want to get your thoughts on this. And Jeremy, I know, friend of the show and personal friend, is a referee. So he may text me and be like, you shouldn't have mentioned this, but it's okay. There was a moment, the 24th minute. I don't know if you noticed it, Swift, and it's on the broadcast, but I think Westwood got called for a foul, and it was a very, very soft foul. I can't remember what it was. But as the Cruz Azul player got up and was walking to the referee, he put his hand out and fist bumped the referee. And the referee's like, yeah, no problem. But like, as a referee, you shouldn't really be seen doing that, because it gives the perception of, yeah, man, I got your back. Like, no worries. Like, I got your calls. And it kind of set the tone for me. And then I think there was some escalation after that. Did you see that happen in the game?
Okay, yeah, there's a couple things here. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the referee could have set the tone a little better. But I will say there was another moment where the ref didn't call a foul, which would have been against Cruz Azul. It ended up being offsides. Westwood was like, what the F, like, because Westwood didn't know it was offsides. When he found out it was offsides, they were both like, the ref and Westwood were thumbs up in each other, because I think the ref was, what I can interpret, the ref was like, I was going to call a foul, but it was offsides, and they were kind of like, yeah, man, cool. So fist bumping is probably a little too far, but sometimes there is like a
Sure.
respect thing, like, hey, and look, I've seen it before. Refs have like, I missed that call, sorry, kind of like I got you type of thing. So there's probably a little bit of that, but I think the referee lost control a little bit. You had the coaches
wee bit.
fighting. Yeah. I think if he would have shown a yellow card earlier when I think Westwood got pushed the first time, I think would have stopped some of that. But the ref kind of let things go a little bit, and that it escalated. But I got to say, a couple things. Sorry. One, I think our coach has been really good at halftime, like laying into these guys, and he's not afraid after the game to lay into these guys when they need it, which I absolutely love.
Yep.
And then two, I think the fight helped us. I think that got our fans into it. Oh, I think just in general got all the fans into it, but I think it kind of like, got some life into this team, which the first half was a lot like the Philadelphia game, which again was one of the worst games I've seen all season. They just were lifeless.
It was like 19% possession that first half, and Corey just pulled up this image for those who are watching this on YouTube later. But like that fight was definitely a key moment. But I want to pull this image up in particular. So selfishly, I stole this from I'm pretty sure the team account on Twitter. But look at them grabbing and ripping Ashley Westwood's jersey in this moment. I was beyond shocked. I mean, great. So Brandt made a foul. Referee called it like he should. Then Cruz Azul comes out of nowhere and beelines the Brandt and just bulldozes them. And then they all start swarming and surrounding Westwood and like pulling, ripping his jersey. The dude looked like he had a V-neck, like 80s, Grand Theft Auto shirt going on. After all this, how did Cruz Azul not get any cards from this? Now, granted, we'll talk about the coaches in a second, but how did no players from Cruz Azul get carded or fouled for this moment?
Well, that's the thing for me. And then even after all this has settled and the ref has got everybody separated, that player comes up again and pushes Westwood again after everybody's broken up. And I'm like, how do you not card this guy? And I don't know if it's like, hey, this is a tournament, I'm trying to let you guys play type. I don't know. But the ref, I think, didn't do a great job of setting the tone and let things escalate. Had the coaches fighting. But I gotta say, I loved every damn second of it.
I'm not gonna lie, I did like it. I mean, it did set a tone. It seemed like the momentum shifted a little bit in Charlotte's favor after that, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't able, and I know Swift, you're kind of on that side behind the coach's bench. I know Corey, you're somewhat near that side. Did you guys see anything going on during that moment? Because on the TV broadcast, they were just kind of like, oh, and there's a card going towards the bench. And then you just see two assistants get carded. But like, what did you see from your point of view?
So before Matt tells what actually happens, I just got to say, I picked in some ways the best time and the worst time to go get a beer.
Oh,
it was the best time. It was the best time because I missed no on-field action.
Sure.
It was the worst times because I missed all the sideline and fight action. I came back and my wife was like, well, like a coach got a red card and there was like 5 yellow cards. I don't know what happened. And I was like, well, that's interesting. But I didn't miss anything on the field. She's like, no, nothing happened on the field. I was like, great, cool.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So anyway, go ahead and tell me what I missed, Matt.
Oh man. So the assistant coaches are going at each other. They're outside of their technical area. They're in the middle. And they are pointing, telling each other to where they can go and where they can stick things. And so like it was really heated. I think at some point Dean Smith was like, hey, calm down. The two head coaches, I think, they were pissed at each other. I think they were, saying some things, but they were more like, all right. But one of the assistant coaches for Cruz Azul, I thought was going to come over and like physically do something. But our coaches were, I think they were absolutely ready for it. I'll just say that. And I was like, yes, get them. Cause like, I'm ready. Like I was pumped up. So yeah, it was a wild night. made for a good time.
I think I'm pretty sure someone was joking at this point, but like your assistant coaches are supposed to leave the field right away, and they even mentioned on the broadcast like Charlotte's assistant left the field immediately, like did what he was told. Cruz Azul's was kind of like lingering and hanging out still to see if like the ref would actually like make him leave, and he did. But someone in Slack later on was in the stadium. They're like, yeah, Charlotte's assistants up here in the stands still yelling and shouting at the players and like from up top, like because you can't be on the field anymore. But can you imagine if a coach got ejected and they're like 10 rows up and be like, hey, can I take this seat for a second? And they're just shouting across the seats.
I mean, I feel like that's happened before.
Has it?
Like to a did that happen to Arsene Wenger at Arsenal? I think maybe.
Interesting.
I think he was.
So is the rules just supposed to be leave the field, but you can sit in the stadium, or
I'm
to go in the locker, or what?
I'm pretty sure they've probably have like fixed that, but I think
I feel like I've seen Premier League where they just like go into like the box and just sit up there and yell down or whatever. Yeah. I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to ask Jeremy, who's a ref, like what the rule is, and I need to look back through some videos. I want to say Arsene Wenger did that at Arsenal.
I would absolutely love for any coach that gets ejected just to go into the stands with the fans and start yelling things from the seats. Yeah. I just a funny visual. So, but no, I thought that fight that definitely kind of I say fight. I mean, there wasn't any like fisticuffs or blows or anything like that, but it definitely sparked, I think, Charlotte that second half. And I know you mentioned the subs earlier, Swift, but like, what did you think of Charlotte's performance in that second half a little bit after that fight? Like we made some subs. Pat came in. You had Breck come on. Tiger Smalls comes on, etc. Like, what do you think about the subs in that second half, and really what impact they made for the game?
It was good to have fresh legs. I think we were getting tired. I was a little surprised with having Swiderski and Pat on at the same time again. Because my worry was that we were going to lose the midfield even more. But it kind of worked out. I'm still, somebody's going to have to explain to me the whole Tiger Smalls thing, and why. And look, I'm not trying, and I'm really not trying to be mean, but I worry about him going forward in his decision making. What really irates me is the defensive work rate, which is I haven't seen it. So I want him to do well. I hope he keeps getting minutes and does amazing. So there's that. But I'm really frustrated at that. And now we have Brandon Cambridge.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I like Brandon. Sorry. So I'm just like, why Tiger Smalls? Why do you keep with Tiger Smalls? I get Abada's out. We're kind of limited. Brecht finally gets some minutes, and I honestly I didn't think he played horrible when he was out there. And he, he's going to be running and hustling. Tiger sometimes just seems like he is jogging, which makes me irate.
So, I thought Brecht. I mean, it's funny because like I remember seeing in Slack that people were making comments of like, what the hell has Brecht done to kind of not get any minutes lately? Being a quote unquote DP for us, which that's just semantics a little bit, but just seeing, him getting 0 minutes over players like Tiger Smalls and, Tavares, which I know Tavares has been hot and cold at times, but it's interesting too, because I wonder why Cambridge hasn't gotten the minutes he's been. Cause I mean, I guess he is maybe getting back into game fitness, because I know he's been spending some time with Legacy lately. But I mean, he's felt good at Legacy. He's made some impact assists and goals, and I'd like to see what he can do potentially this next game if we move on to the next round.
Yeah, and again, that's what I'm saying. I need someone to explain it to me. Like, what does Tiger give you at the moment? And again, I'm not trying to be super critical because he's a young player, but what does he give you right now that Brandon can't, or someone else? Again, I know we're a little limited, but I'm just kind of scratching my head when the effort is not there. That's when I start turning on you, and just sometimes just jogging around, not tracking back. That that irks me a little bit. So, but again, young, plenty of time to develop.
Sure.
I like that he takes people on and he's aggressive, and I'm really pulling for him. But at the same time, I'm like, I'd like to see someone else out there instead. So, one of the things, before I forget, one of the things that really, really frustrated me in the first half was that, we've always done this thing where we're super pinched in, and that's kind of thing. We overload one side, and it usually works because defensively we can stop teams crossing the ball. Cruz Azul was owning us in the first half with crossing the ball quickly because they're one of the best teams in Liga MX. They're a quality side. They can switch the ball, and we were just getting destroyed, and I was losing my mind. It was a little better in the second half. And I even think the coach from Cruz Azul was saying that we purposely were trying to switch the ball quickly. But like I said, I think we made some adjustments. But man, like Lindsay was just getting toasted on his side. Even Yuri, who I really, really like, same thing. So that was really, really frustrating to see. But we seemed like we were kind of fixing that a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, not to go down a huge rabbit hole with Lindsay and like specific players, but what do you think about him getting his first minutes in quite a while? I think it came out later that Nathan Byrne has a toe injury, which I don't know was really reported leading up to this. That was kind of a shocker for myself, and I don't know how long he's going to be out for. But it's a perfect opportunity for Lindsay to get some minutes and show what he's capable of. But I mean, other than that first half getting pinched in and the crosses, what do you think about Lindsay in this game?
He always plays pretty decent in my book.
Yeah.
Like I said, here and there he gets out of place, and again, I think the first half it showed that quite a bit. But again, a good thing about these tournaments is Bingham, Lindsay, Pekovic, players like that are getting minutes. So when we get back to the regular season, if they have to sub in or Nathan Byrne gets hurt, Jalen slides right in, and he's not as rusty. So that's kind of a good thing about the tournament, and maybe lasting a couple more games just to kind of get that, getting players some match minutes, right? So I think it's good. I think it's beneficial, and it gives an opportunity to rest Byrne, even though he's injured.
Yeah, because I mean, you want them to be fresh and fit going into the fall when we make our playoff run. Hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever. So transitioning a little bit, there's two things in here. One Corey put in the doc, and I put this one in here too a little bit. But first one I want to bring up is just about the midfield. So Corey made a comment in here, just we really need some creativity in the midfield, and he says, "Help us, Oran. You're our only hope." So, anything you want to expound on that, Corey, or like what's your thoughts, Swift, after that?
No, and I would love to hear Swift's thoughts if I'm placing blame in the right place. But the comment came from the fact that watching that match, and I've seen it in other matches this season, but it really stood out Wednesday night, is just the lack of possession and the lack of any kind of ideas to get the ball out of our defense. Just there was nothing. I mean, there was absolutely nothing. We were either making poor passes and we'd lose it, or there was no one to pass to, so we had to go backward. I mean, or the only time we had any kind of chances were when we got a lucky long ball through, which that was nice to see occasionally, but that feels like the least effective way to try to build an attack is just to launch one and hope Carroll can get on the end of it, or Tavares or somebody. So it just seemed like, and again, I don't know if I'm placing the blame in the right place, but it felt like to me, the midfield, the connection between getting the ball up through the midfield, there was just non-existent. It got better in the second half. Like I think that's where you started seeing some more chances come in the second half, but especially that first half. I mean, I think you look up and the possession number was like 24% or something like that. I think in the first half. I mean, it was like abysmal.
80-20. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was because we would get the ball, and yeah, they were pressing and they were doing all that, but we had no ideas about how to get the ball out of our defense. And I think also the midfield pieces, being able to have someone that can actually, supply good balls to our attackers to get better scoring opportunities. That's part of it too. But it was also just like there was no connection really between the defense and the attack because we couldn't we couldn't move the ball anywhere, especially first half and early second half. So yeah, I would love Matt's thoughts on it, but it was really frustrating watching that first half and watching the way we played.
I think the game plan is one, we're going to be a counter attacking team. So the long ball forward, and I saw Dean a couple times make that motion of like hit it over the top. And I'm like, we've done that like 1,000 times this game. And he's calling for it more. I'm like, I don't know if we could do it more because we literally do it every single time.
It was the only thing we had. Yeah.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, it does work. Now, it freaking had sweeper keeper back there. Dude, I'm gonna go off a tangent real quick. I'm sorry. My buddy Steven was with me, and maybe I'm just a jerk. But I turned to Steven. I was like, if I'm Patrick, if that keeper comes out one more time, I am bashing the shit out of that dude. I don't care if I get a yellow card. Yellow card's worth it. Like, I'm going to keep that keeper honest. If he comes out one more time, I'm going to hit him. Like, I'm going to run into him. I'm not going to, like, close fist punch him. But I'm like, if he's going to keep doing that and being bold, I think maybe hitting him one time might keep him back. But that dude disrupted a lot of over-the-top balls. He did a great job. Keeper did an amazing job back there doing that. And which I was getting so pissed off about. But back to, like, how we're playing, Corey, and your point, there is a point where it's predictable. And, we have the ball in the back and no one's open in the midfield to get the ball to. And maybe it's Westwood, but he gets closed down. He plays it sideways and then over the top again. And eventually teams will pull back another defender and you can go one-on-one with Patrick or Swiderski. And if he gets beat, you still have a player back there. And again, that kind of is what was happening against Cruz Azul. The other player back there was just the keeper playing sweeper keeper. So I think teams can easily, defend us now. I know Patrick's hard to defend and everything like that, but we need to mix it up just a little bit. We're just, I think, too predictable, but we're missing a Bada who could get the ball and dribble and create some space, but we're also, again, missing that number 10 who can come check to the ball, drag people out of position, make a pass, make a play, open things up. We're just too stagnant sometimes going forward. And then the other thing that kills us is that we are going to be this counter team, but we keep making kind of bonehead decisions once we get the ball and we start going forward.
Yes.
Right? We're turning the ball over. We're making stupid passes. Dude, I saw Ashley Westwood. I thought if he could have got his hands on Tavares at one point, I think he would have choked him out. Like, he was so unbelievably mad at him for one play. I mean, and again, another tangent. Ashley Westwood, I absolutely love this dude. Like,
he's the best.
He is what an amazing signing. I know people were clowning him a little bit for his age. This dude is one hell of a captain. He's feisty as shit on the field. He's a great dude off the field, and like, he's a leader. And he was given had to go at Bronico. He had to go at Tavares. He was not. I know he wasn't happy about the performance against Philadelphia, but he was having to go at some of our players, and I think it's needed because we make boneheaded decisions going forward.
That's a really good point, because when you're talking about us being a counterattacking team, that's the way we want to play, you got to be crisp. When you have those opportunities, you've got to be so crisp with it. And that was also in addition to just being slow and not creative, it was not clean. I mean, we were making some sloppy, awful, bad passes that sometimes almost got us into trouble. But even if they didn't get us into trouble, we lost possession almost immediately because we couldn't connect a pass. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, Corey. Yeah, don't ever watch that Philadelphia game because it was that times so 1,000. It was the epitome of everything you just said was wrong. Like, it was just all night long. It was horrible.
I'm so glad.
Sorry, imagine that with 0 shots. That's the Philly game. But no. No. So you touched on a few topics. I just wanted to kind of agree with you on there, Swift. I thought with us, I think Cruz Azul knew how to defend it against us because of us trying to play the long ball so much that they knew that they needed to have that sweeper keeper. And I would if I'm Dean, I don't want to say I would be freaking out, but Cruz Azul kind of gave a blueprint for MLS to defend us a little bit last night, because they were like, hey, if you got a keeper that feels confident enough to do this, and it's going to cause disruption between Carroll and Pat. But I also wanted to kind of piggyback off the Abada comment, because yes, I feel like the lack of creativity and the pressure on the midfield is amplified because we don't have someone like an Abada on the wing that's going to put pressure on the sides to keep them honest. Because like, and again, I'm not going to do this to rag on the guy. Vargas has been MIA for probably 3/4 of the year. And so he's on one side. Tavares is on another, who's been hot and cold, shows some flashes and potential, younger guy, just like Vargas. But when you have two guys that are young on the wings who aren't consistent at producing, it puts that much pressure on the Nicola, the Brants, the Ashley Westwoods to do something, because they're not doing that much on the sides for you. So now you're basically funneling it all on the inside, and it's putting a lot more pressure there.
Yeah, what's super frustrating for everybody involved is when the ball is played out to the wings and they immediately make a bad pass, and
it just kills everything. Yeah,
it kills everything. But here's the thing, though, guys. So let me play devil's advocate with my own comment. So
sure.
How old is Tavares? How old is Vargas?
Oh,
How
yeah.
old is Patrick?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, and Pekovic and a lot of our smalls, there is going to be some growing pains with this team, no matter how you
Sure.
slice it, no matter if they're on a heater or whatever the case is. They're going to make bonehead decisions. They're going to turn the ball over. That kind of makes me hopeful for the future, because these guys are only
Sure.
going to get better with players like Westwood around them, helping guide them and yelling at them like when they do something bad. So that's comforting. Also, too, it's kind of comforting that these players are have been able to make bonehead decisions and not play their best, but we're still a good team.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice. But yeah, I have to remember that myself. I was kind of a little harsh about Smalls. I'm like, he is really young, man. Like,
yeah.
So got to show him a little bit of grace there.
I do agree. It really, to me, just stood out to the point of how bad, to make a segue into your next point, David, is how bad we need that number 10. How bad we need that creative attacking midfielder. And it won't solve all the problems, but like, I just think we just need some more dynamic playmaking in the middle there to help out, especially once we have Abada back, and when we have Swiderski up top and have some potent attack. Like, I think that midfield needs to be able to help connect that. And it just really, because we looked so bad in that first half, it really stood out to me.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Is Abada eligible to play in Leagues Cup when he comes back? Because I know they had to submit the roster earlier. Was he part of that roster, and is he able to play if we move and advance on?
I think so.
Okay, I know they had to list the names of who they had. So like, if we have a summer transfer window come in, they may not be eligible to play because they're not on that 23-man roster, whatever it is, for Leagues Cup at this point. Correct?
Yeah, there is some stipulations. I think I'd have to look at. I don't know off the top of my head. That's a good question.
Got it. So not to put us on a spot there. Yeah. Go ahead, Swift.
One of the things about a number 10, if you look like at Acosta from Cincinnati, one of the things that it's not in a stat sheet is that what a really good number 10 does is that wherever they go on the field, they're going to draw attention, and it will open up the middle for other players like a Westwood or even Brant or someone like that. Just pulling players out of position, and then being able to get the ball and turn the face and be able to dribble past someone, to actually be able to dribble past someone and dribble into space, also opens things up. So it's not just getting assists, scoring goals, and making passes. It's just I don't know what you would call it, but like, teams have to factor that in, and they start, when we play Cincinnati, we're like, oh, you got to guard Acosta, you got to make sure you shut down the middle. You have to game plan around people. Right now, I don't think we really have anybody that you typically or really have to game plan for, except for maybe, Patrick up top, like just be secure up there. But like if I'm a team, I'm telling my back, I'm like, hey, maybe have someone hang back, play Patrick one-on-one. If you get beat, you still have somebody kind of like a stopper sweeper, thing type of dynamic from back in the day.
So I want to transition just basically off of that conversation a little bit because we were kind of alluding to it. So I put in the document about the summer window, and I don't want to go down a huge rabbit hole here with you, Swift, because I know you put some comments in Slack around summer window and timing and things like that. But summer window ends in about 2 weeks for U.S. teams. It ends next week for Canadian teams in MLS, which is weird to me that that's how they went, but neither here or there. And I just want to put this as an example. So, and I know Vaughn put in Slack a few things here, but Atlanta United just announced a huge DP signing, and I'm going to butcher his name. But Alexei Mironchuk, could be wrong on how I'm saying that, but comes from Atalanta from Serie A, but huge midfield type player, spent a ton of money, announced it kind of early-ish in the window. Should Charlotte fans be freaking out right now that we have 2 weeks left and we haven't even signed any players officially? There's some players were rumored to links to, like Tim Ream, and there's I think an Israeli Olympic player that is linked, a 19-year-old kid. I can't remember his name, but nothing officially been announced yet. So should Charlotte players or fans be freaking out? And then the follow-up for that, is it too late to make an impact now this season?
I like how he stroked his beard after the question. That was like a very...
Yeah, I know, right?
So should we freak out? All right, so should we freak out? No. Are we going to freak out? Yes, we freak out literally the minute the window opens. We start freaking out. And I get it. There's FOMO as soon as a team signs a player. It doesn't matter who they are. They could be trash, whatever. They're like, "Oh my God, we have the worst front office ever. Why do we wait so long? Why do we blah 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 blah?" Yuri is pretty good, right? Our left back, pretty good. Pretty amazing signing. Literally got him the last day of the window. So just wait. Just wait a minute. Wait till the transfer window is done, and then if you don't like it, then like lay into Zorn, lay into the front office, but like just give it a second. Haven't we done halfway decent with some of our signings? Like, I get it. Like, but so all right. So let's take Tim Ream, for example, right? And Matt Chantry, who's he's a big Fulham fan. Here's something, a dynamic that people don't take into consideration. Tim Ream was supposed to be a done deal, right? And it seems like it's been kind of dragging out, and then like maybe it was going to go away, and now it's back. And Chantry, because he knows Fulham really well, he's like, yeah, Fulham always takes to the last minute to make deals. That's football. Like, it does. You don't just snap your fingers. Like, whoever team you're dealing with, that's how long it's going to take. Sometimes a team might need a backup center back. They need to get a man first before they can sell someone off. It just takes time. So I just want people to just wait, man. You can be critical after the fact. You can yell. You can call for someone's job. But like, as soon as the window open, and you don't make a sign, oh, Zorn, he's just the worst ever. I can't believe it. How, what are we doing here? Like, it gets exhausting.
So one of the quotes that Dean said, sorry, I'll say this real quick, Corey, and then I'll let you go. But Dean said a comment, I think after the game or even yesterday or today, that we will have a player to help our player or players come in and help strengthen us for the rest of the season. So usually a coach doesn't say something like that unless they know something is about to happen.
Yeah.
So I kind of left that out in my first question on purpose because I wanted to get you.
Let me ask everybody something. Have we had a window where we just didn't sign anybody? Like, we just didn't do anything? Like, we just sat on our hands and just was like, well, nah, we'll just sit this one out. We're like,
no,
come on.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on.
I agree with you. The only like slight devil's advocate I would play, and it's very slight, is that I think because there's such a big DP need here that, and we haven't really gotten those DPs right, except for Abada. If he continues in the direction he goes, he seems like a good one. And Swiderski, if he stays for long enough and continues, like maybe we do have two, but like we don't have a great track record in making these big signings. And so like that might to me add to the nervousness. I totally agree with you that like there's plenty of time. These things usually happen late in the window. Like I'm not freaking out, but like I think it is ratcheted up a little bit because we know how badly we need this DP signing to really ignite some things for this team. And so I think that's maybe why there's a little more stress or hand-wringing about it. Yeah.
I think it's also because the people see the potential this year that we're in sixth place and we're doing well with basically half the season with one DP the entire year up to this point, right? So they're probably just, just looking at this going, oh my God, like if we can nail a 10, and I guess the second part of my thing here, but if we can just nail this, like it'd be a huge get for the team. But I guess the other part of this, which I thought was pretty funny, is that the Marco Royce situation, how long has that been dragging out for? And he's a free transfer. There's been no like hold up whatsoever. Can you imagine if Charlotte was, and granted, let me take this back. Charlotte was very active in trying to get him to come here, right?
Oh yeah.
How pissed would players be if it came down as like, yeah, Charlotte's going to sign him 2 months ago. And we're all sitting here like, why is Marco Royce still not signed here? What's going on? Like, what's the delay for? It's a free transfer. Like, if I'm Galaxy fans, I'm kind of like, I know they had to free up some cap and move some things around because they had some wonkiness because they're not making him a DP, which whatever. But I would be pissed if we signed a player like that and it took 2 months to bring him in on a free transfer.
So again, there's so many factors that go into these. It's not FIFA, the video game. It is.
I just can't press A. It's not that easy.
It's agents are involved. It's other teams are involved, and I think the Tim Ream thing is a perfect example. This should be a no. Why was he not here day one as soon as the window opens? But again, it is because Fulham, as Matt Changer will tell you, they have a history of waiting to the last minute. They also are signing. I think they just signed a center back.
Just signed somebody. Yeah.
So that's probably part of the process. Like, hey, we got to get this guy in before we can move this guy out. He's coming. We've agreed. It's already set in stone. We're good. But just again, like all I ask is that if you're going to call people names, if you're going to be critical, just wait and then do it. Like after the fact, after everything's said and done, if you want to do it, then that's okay, whatever. But like, man, it just every single window. I'm like, I have to turn off notifications, trying to go on Twitter, Slack. I'm like, I just can't. I can't do it.
You can't just snap your fingers and do your steps.
Yes.
You can't just do it all by yourself.
So the first time y'all referenced that, I had no idea what y'all were talking about.
Thank you. I was waiting for that moment to bring it up again, but I'm so glad you were here.
In all fairness, David will say things, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, it's just like it's the thing he's saying instead of referencing something.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you just zone out when I talk. Is what you're saying?
No, I hear what you're saying. I'm like, oh, okay.
He's like,
I hear what. Yeah, all right, that's a cool little saying. I had no idea that you're like referencing stuff sometimes.
So glad we had for behind the scenes. The last episode, I made a joke like that, and then like for 2 days later, we're talking to Swift and explaining, Lil Jon and the era of music behind the scenes.
No idea.
Transitioning to, I think, one of the last topics we have on this document, and then we'll open it up, whatever else you guys want to talk about. But Corey, you made a comment about the difference in the atmosphere in this game. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier too, but both of you were at the game. I was not at the game. I actually haven't been to a Leagues Cup game once. I missed last year's Leagues Cup game, have not gone to this year's Leagues Cup game. If we move on, I selfishly want us to move on because I want to be able to go to a game because I think we can have the potential to host one this year because Beyonce and all that stuff isn't here this year. But not to bring up salt in the wound, but what stood out to you in the environment of this game? Because I have some observations just from the TV broadcast, but anything that stood out to you that was unique, that was cool, that was not great, anything from being in person into what was supposed to be a home game for Charlotte, but it felt was kind of like a 60-40 or 50-50 mix of fans within the stadium.
It definitely felt 50-50 at least. I mean, it was a little hard to tell because the blue and the purple look so similar in the stadium, like
Sure.
from a distance, like what was blue and what was purple. And maybe I'm blind and I have really strong contacts.
You're just getting old with me, that's all.
But no, I mean, it definitely felt, and also I should say, because of where I sit, which is fairly close to the away supporter section, I'm getting the Apple thumbs up. This is the dumbest feature Apple's ever done. I'm not going to rant about it because I already ranted today. So, but yeah, so I also sit like I'm a section over and a little bit down from where they put the away supporters. So I'm also like that colors my vision a little bit because I'm very close to that. But even just looking around, walking to the stadium, it felt like it was 50-50, 60-40 Cruz Azul fans, and it was cool. I mean, I think for the most part, it was really fun seeing that kind of atmosphere in the stadium. And because those fans, and I think maybe you mentioned this earlier, Matt, when we were talking about when the argument for Leagues Cup is like these fans most likely don't get a chance to see their team very often in person. And so like this was huge for people who follow Cruz Azul. And so like they went all out for it. I mean, it was crazy walking to the stadium. In the stadium, the energy was super high. The chants and songs from them were really good. Like it was a really cool atmosphere seeing that. And I think honestly, like what happens, at least in my area, is when the opposing fans are rowdy, it gets our section kind of rowdy, which is fun. Like then both, and usually in a positive way. There's some exceptions yesterday, but usually in a positive way, it gets people rowdy and kind of like we start chanting and doing more because they're chanting and doing more. So it just kind of brings up the whole level. And again, like to your point about the value of this tournament, I think the cool thing is getting to play teams we would never play otherwise and getting to see that atmosphere in Charlotte, getting a lot of people who live in Charlotte or North Carolina, getting a chance to see their team. All that's very cool. So it was a really cool atmosphere. And the last thing I'll say is that it was striking how different the atmosphere was from when we played Necaxa last year. It was nothing like that. I felt like, like it was interesting to see their fans, but it was not nearly as rabid of an away supporters feeling there, which makes sense given the two different clubs. But it was a totally different atmosphere. I knew we were in for it as soon as I walked in, and they made me pour my beer into a plastic cup. I was like, oh, here we go. That's a
supporter. That's a supporter group,
right?
Or supporter section thing to do. Yeah.
But the only time they've done it outside of that before that I know of, at least, was when we hosted US played was it Trinidad and Tobago, and then the second game was Honduras versus somebody. In those matches, was it last year? I'm trying to remember what this was. Was it Gold Cup? I'm drawing a complete blank about what it was. But they did plastic cups that match too. So like those are the only two times that I know of in Bank of America Stadium they made everybody do plastic cups, which me meant like, oh, this is going to be like a rowdy atmosphere, which is fun. I mean, there was some action in my side of the stadium that wasn't as fun, but otherwise it was really cool. And again, like I would say the vast majority of the opposing fans were awesome and just really energetic and really excited to see their team and just cheering like hell for them. And that was cool to see.
Do you think that was because of the recent international game that we had here with Uruguay and Colombia, where they kind of got, and not to bring up Salt again, like Swift, as I think Scott Fowler famously said, a black eye to Charlotte soccer. I know that face, sorry. But do you think there was added or heightened awareness and stress because it was an international game that they wanted to make sure that nothing could happen like this past international game that they had there, or what?
Maybe. I think again, because I'd seen him do it last season, even before the one you're talking about from earlier this season. I think they just kind of are aware of fan bases and not just like, I don't mean this is like a good fan base or a bad fan base, just like fan bases that have a reputation for being more energetic and more like, passionate rowdy about the way that rowdy, like whatever you want to say. It's not like a good thing or bad thing. I just think they knew that there was a chance with the way, how many opposing fans we were going to have in the stadium. It's like, let's just not try to have anything happen here. But honestly, So like the actual main supporters group, I would say, because like there were fans for Cruz Azul all over the stadium. But like the main, what I would say, supporters group was again behind us, a section over, and they until things escalated and people started getting kicked out, there wasn't like a ton of security like cordoning them off or anything. Like people were watching them as they always do, but it didn't seem like they were doing anything crazy extra again until things escalated and they had to make some moves there. But no, I just think it was yeah.
What'd you see that escalated, Corey? I'm curious.
So this is a little bit of hearsay. I mean, a couple guys got kicked out. I think what happened based on what I saw was it was actually a Club America fan, which is a big rival, had come in and was standing up and holding that scarf toward the Cruz Azul fans and was apparently saying not nice things. They reacted.
Sure.
And the Cruz Azul fans got kicked out first, and the Club America guy didn't. But then I guess the Club America guy got into a fight later. He kicked out. So like it was like a very isolated incident. It wasn't like it was a huge brawl or anything. It was like very isolated, but it was like it was so dumb. It was clearly it was so dumb. Like he just paid like how much you paid for a ticket and you to do that.
Right.
And then the other thing they did, they let off some smoke.
I heard about that.
I saw that. It
was quite a bit of those. But otherwise, I mean, they were just. Beyond that, it wasn't anything more than just normal rowdy, like opposing fans kind of giving each other a hard time. So it was good.
Gotcha. What about you, Swift? Anything that stood out to you?
So a couple of things, this, the Liga MX teams don't have a home game, right? So they're always traveling. And again, fans here have the opportunity to see their hometown team or maybe like their big rival or maybe just the team that they like. So they're coming out massively, which is really, really cool. And we'll see if this tournament goes on, 5-10 years, we'll see if that same intensity is there after some of maybe the newness wears off.
Yeah.
But I honestly, it's a little jarring coming into your own stadium. And it's not overwhelmingly Charlotte FC, right? It's kind of a new experience for us, unless you're a Panthers fan, which is normal. But so maybe there's a little bit of that too. Like, oh my God, like, this should be 99% Charlotte FC. And, so there's a little bit of like being protective. But it's a tournament. It's different. And honestly, it was a pretty fun experience for me. Nothing crazy that I saw happen. I'm sure there were little fights here and there, which is kind of a normal for a tournament.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, it was nice for the city. It was nice for the fans. Again, I'm always hopeful that someone will come to a game that's never been to a Charlotte FC game before. And they're like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. I'm starting going to these games.
Yeah.
But again, we'll see if some of the newness wears off and the fans that are follow the Mexican teams continue to show up like they do. But Cruz Azul is a very good team, very popular team, and they showed that in the stadium. But I thought we were loud too. I don't know. It may have been like 60-40 Cruz Azul because I was looking around. I was like, man, it's a lot of.
It was very
blue in here, and they were doing the olays during passing. During the 90% possession that they had during the game, which that started to really irk me. And I may have turned around to one of the guys that was a Cruz Azul fan when when we were doing well, and kind of like, I'm like, all right, you can shut up now. He started like counting the passes too. I'm like, dude, if you do this all game, I'm gonna turn around. We're gonna have some issues. But he was good. But
that's funny.
Yeah, it's hard not to get defensive when you're in your own stadium. But overall, man, that's why I like this tournament, and that's why I argue so much for it. It's cool, it's new, and I hope it continues to do well. And it's really fun to see all those guys traveling and come to these games.
Yeah, real quick, David, before you jump in. Sorry, I want to say a couple things. No, I agree with you that, Matt, that like it was hard to tell how loud we were because there wasn't much to cheer for most of the match, right? Like that was why it was like hard to kind of tell if what the difference was, how loud we were, because like honestly, other than like a couple of close missed opportunities, we didn't have much to cheer for until like penalties. So yeah, and then obviously, especially at the beginning of the match, the opposing fans were really excited to be there, and so they were going to be loud and cheering really loud at the beginning, no matter what. But the other thing I was going to say is what we were talking about. I don't have an answer for this. It's just something we were thinking about. It's like I wonder what percentage of these Cruz Azul fans, those are their Charlotte FC season tickets, but Cruz Azul is their club, right? Like there's got to be some proportion of people who like that's their club. That's the club they grew up loving and always supporting, and that's their like diehard club. But they live in Charlotte, or they live in North Carolina now, and so they've adopted Charlotte FC as their local team to follow. But when Cruz Azul comes, they're going to come in wearing their blue, right? Like I don't know how many it is, but I was just kind of thinking about it as I was looking around. I was like, I wonder if there's a percentage of people who like that's their season ticket, and they just are here now supporting their club that they grew up loving. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a mix of some folks like that for sure. And going back on I don't want to say the newness of it, but the impact it's going to have. But Swift, I mean, like, maybe I'm an anomaly from this, but I would say Charlotte FC fans and Charlotte FC draws for, I would probably say like 80% of their fans are probably based out of Charlotte or surrounding area, right? But when you have these teams come in like a Cruz Azul, like you said, like they may not see them that often, and they're going to pull from Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina within a certain distance, and they're gonna make it their impact and go see their team, right? Compared to if there's a Charlotte FC home game, yes, you may get some people from like Wilmington and Columbia and things like that, but the vast majority are from Charlotte proper, right? So I think you're always going to get potentially, I don't want to say outnumbered, but at least a good mix of Liga MX teams, like fans, because of that, right?
It is very much like a Charlotte FC Chelsea game.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I think Cruz Azul is again one of the top popular teams, and they're gonna. It's a good point. Like people from South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, they see that their hometown team that they love is playing in Charlotte, so they're gonna make that trip because how often do they get to see them? You know, last year we played them in Texas, right? Yeah. So if you're around here, you didn't get to see them play. So again, I think it's going to be kind of a cool thing. I wish people would embrace it. I understand why they don't because of the Open Cup stuff. But I think this really can be like a really, really cool tournament. Now with this, I hope they change the All-Star game because I don't think we should be playing Liga MX now because then some of that allure and newness kind of wears off pretty quickly. We should rethink the All-Star game. But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
Well, from a broadcast perspective and just watching it live last night, I mean, I remember texting my buddy Brandon at the beginning of the kickoff. I was like, man, you guys are loud on TV. Like you could hear the chants, the drums that started the thing. So, because I was fully expecting to be 50-50 or 60-40 Cruz Azul to Charlotte fans. And I was kind of, I don't want to say surprised, but I was like, oh, because anytime we have these international games, the supporter section is very wonky. Like it is free for all. It's people coming in. It's not the usual fans. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear how loud the chants of the drums were at the start of the game. To Corey's point, I don't think we did ourselves any favors by having only 19% possession at one point and like giving us nothing to cheer about. But it was definitely shocking how loud that Ole chant got on the broadcast. I'm like low key envious and jealous that we can't do something like that in our own stadium because we try like the Charlotte clap FC, like, you know, there's times like it gets kind of loud, but that Ole was just rambunctious on the broadcast. I don't know if it was that loud there for you guys or not.
It was. And I think our basic kind of Charlotte FC chant is starting to, when the supporter section starts it, I think the other fans are starting to kind of catch on, like during corners. Some of our corners, I thought we were really, really loud. People were banging on their chairs. I think people are starting to get the hang of some of our chants. And remember, we're in our 4th season. Most of the teams we play, like internationally and even sometimes in this league, have been around a lot longer than us.
Sure.
So it's just going to take some time for us to kind of build these traditions, you know, like Seattle has the Seattle's, you know, Sounders. Like, I think it's just going to take some time for us to get that. But I've noticed people around me, because I'm in the middle of the stadium, are starting to catch on to what the supporter section is doing. And again, we're in year 4. So it's just going to take some time for these things.
We need our keep pounding.
We need our keep pounding. Yeah.
Well, I mean, really, that's it. Like, it's like that all I was kind of making as a joke, but like that cheer that the whole stadium knows, whether it's the Ole, whether it's Seattle Sounders, like whatever it is, like for Charlotte, it's keep pounding. Like that, once you start that, the whole stadium knows how to get into it. Yeah. And it might be Charlotte FC. I don't know what it is, but like that's what you get, that one cheer that you can go to when you really want to get the place rocking. Yeah. And that's what we don't have yet. Or it hasn't caught on yet, I should say. We might have it, it just hasn't caught on yet.
Yeah, and Ole is the most unoriginal thing ever. but I mean, like, I want to say this too. This is a big credit to our team. I honestly think, and again, I had some Cruz Azul fans around me. I honestly think they thought they were going to come in and just roll us. Yeah. And I think they were rambunctious. They were ready to cheer. I think they thought that they were just going to take it to us. And so I think the Oles came from like, well, shit, I guess we'll cheer about passing the ball around because we can't really get a shot off. Maybe I'm just being a jerk about that. But like, I mean, and like, again, before we get, I just want to say big freaking shout out to our defense again, shutting out a team. I think Caleb Adams tweeted this out. I think it was the first game in 4 games that Cruz Azul has not scored.
Yeah.
They're a good side. And they really didn't have much for us. There were a couple things where they were offsides and, had some good chances. But, man, again, we showed up. And I think we kind of shut their fans up a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, it's I was trying to pull up what Caleb Adams put out there, but I can't find it immediately here. But yeah, that was shocking to me to hear. I think they were even talking on the broadcast about how Cruz Azul is not used to be playing behind, or like they're usually leading majority of games, at least to start this season. And, coming in and having to fight tooth and nail just to even try to get some shots on goal is, I think, a credit to Charlotte for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if Tavares puts away that wide open shot in the
first 2 minutes,
first couple minutes, they are playing from behind. I mean, that really easily could have changed things. But I totally agree with you, Matt. Is like you could tell there was a shift as the game kept dragging on at 0-0, and especially as Charlotte started playing a little better, there was a definite shift in the atmosphere there where they were like, oh, we're not just going to, walk out of this exhibition match kind of vibe.
The guys behind me were getting pretty quiet. Like it was funny. And the Charlotte FC fan that was, pissed about Kahlina not starting, he was drinking more and he was starting to give it to the Cruz Azul fans that he was with. It was awesome.
So I ironically felt better as the game went on and they didn't score, because I was like, we have a better chance here, especially with PKs and the way our defense plays. I felt better as it went on, because at the very beginning I was kind of worried. I was like, shit, if we don't get on this. But second half happened, we started getting some more momentum, and I was like, well, Cruz Azul's not really creating that many more chances towards the end of the game. I felt pretty good going into that, and then PKs happened, and I felt great. I was like, oh yeah, we're in their head right now because they weren't able to score during the game. We beat them last year in the same situation, so it was kind of nice to get it into the PKs and make it 2-0 all time versus Cruz Azul.
That's right.
Well, fellas, we went through the document. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed us bouncing around a little bit. But any other closing thoughts or anything from your end, Swift, as we kind of tie up this episode?
No, it's just nice to be doing this podcast again, and nice to be talking about a team that's good. I'm really enjoying the season. I like the signings we've had. I thought the game last night was awesome and fun. Just bringing fun back to soccer this season. I like it.
Corey, any closing thoughts for you?
There's one more picture you put in the doc that we haven't talked about yet. Are we supposed to talk about? I'm supposed to pull this up. Or just talk about it?
We don't have to. I mean, I put it there just in case if we.
I'm just saying it's in the doc. I mean, we gotta. I'm just gotta for completion's sake. We gotta throw this up here.
Yeah. So did you cry? Did you cry when you got this tattoo?
I did not. So for those who are listening and not watching this here, it is a picture of my very fit, masculine, muscular calf. So it is a picture of my very first tattoo. So for those who aren't aware, last week was my birthday and I'm having a midlife crisis. And I said, I'm going to get a tattoo randomly. And my wife was very supportive, went along with me and was supportive and encouraged me and said, yeah, do what you want. And so we got there and I did not cry swift. I was actually very shocked. I did not know what to expect when they started it. The tattooist was fantastic. Divine Street Tattoos, by the way, Columbia. Quick shout out to you guys. But it was awesome. Like it was pretty cool. Like there was a few moments where it felt like it was pinching a little bit. It was like kind of going underneath the calf muscle. But like the shading and like, the lining wasn't that bad. It felt kind of like a razor burn, if that makes sense. But it wasn't terrible.
It's a good looking tattoo. It's
man.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I told my wife, I said, there's two things I need to do now. Is one, need to really focus on leg day because I can never let this go badly. Which friend of the show, Donnie, texted me and said the same thing. He goes, well, now you got to work on your calves nonstop. But then two, I jokingly told my wife, I was like, all right, cool. Now I got to start planning my next one. And she's like, yeah, you're going to take a little bit of a break right here. But I definitely want to start thinking about the next one that I'm going to get.
So I know what your next one is going to be. Now, this is a Mint City Soccer Show deep cut, but I think you're supposed to, and you made a bet. It never came about, but I think you should.
I did.
You predicted if Christian Fuchs scored off a volley from a corner kick. Forgot what minute. But this is.
I said the 20-second minute in honor of the 22nd year of the inaugural season. Yes.
So I mean, you got another calf that you can make that happen. You can put Fuchs on their volley. So
I'll get a fox. I'll get like his Fuchs Academy, Fox Academy kind of logo. So no, thanks for pulling it up, Corey. I did drop that in there just in case it was ever brought up. But no, it's healing pretty well. It's been officially a week now. I got it a week ago today. So
it's good. It looks good.
Feels pretty good. Yeah, appreciate it. So I'm not as cool and hip as you are, Swift. How many tattoos do you have, Swift? Total?
Just looks down at his body. That's great.
1, 2, 3. I have 4 right now.
4. Okay.
Wait.
Are there any of them Charlotte FC?
Yeah.
He's got the one. Yeah.
I know. I just messed it.
I was gonna say, like, what is that?
I was teeing him up to kind of show it off a little bit.
I was so confused. I was like, man, we've been doing the show for a while. We've known each other for quite a while. Like, are you okay mentally?
Well, so now that 2 out of the 3 main members of the show have a tattoo. Corey,
don't even go there.
Yeah,
don't even go there. Okay, yeah, you gotta get a little wrist one. Like just have it right here.
You should do one of a guy doing the wave at a game. Like that's what I want. That's what he should get.
It's gonna be like an overhead shot of the 277 Independence merge. That's just gonna be that.
And make it okay. Sorry, we're going deep cut here, but in the show on this note, this is just my cheesy dumb brain. Make it a zipper, but it's a zipper lane merge. But then where it's on the bottom, it's an actual zipper, and then it's 277 unzipping. Whatever. So there you go.
I like it. There
Here
we go.
So you got to get that, and got to get that.
That'll be fun to explain every time someone asks about it.
Like, well, the thing is, I do this podcast, and my co-host that told me to do this.
I really hate zipper merging lanes. I'm saying, yeah.
No, David, your next tattoo literally should be a corn dog.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Probably not.
just all the way down the full, like right, like all the way down here. Just a full-on corn dog.
You should.
That guy.
That logo,
do the whole logo, do the soccer ball and the corn dog.
The 80s like movie theater like snack concession stand style like entry where they're walking the popcorn, the soda, but it's a corn dog and exactly, Corey. It's a corn dog and a soccer ball walking.
There you go.
My wife would kill me if I got that.
You have a whole other calf to do, so.
God. So it's funny, like, and this is like not a tattoo podcast. I was surprised by how many people messaged me and said, dude, that's like the worst spot to get one. It hurts a lot. And I was like, well, it didn't really hurt that bad. I thought like, ribs and, bony areas would hurt more, like shins and elbows,
shin is
whatever.
horrible.
But yeah, I can't imagine that. but
Calf, I don't know. I think it'd be all right.
yeah, it was like a 5 out of 10. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't like smooth sailing either. So there is a video. I'll send you guys the video of me while I'm getting tattooed, and my wife was very happily videoing my face. And I'm sitting there like cringing, and then the guy's like, "You doing good up there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks." And I'm going right back to it. So, so I'll send that to you guys, and we can post that on the show account and have some fun with it. But
oh yeah,
awesome,
absolutely.
guys. Well,
Cool.
so we have a break this weekend, right? No game this weekend, but if folks are interested to know how Charlotte's going to advance, like Corey Ensko is going to,
Corey's going to watch the game now.
yeah, he's gonna watch it, and it's gonna be Philadelphia versus Cruz Azul. It's in Philly after they've had like 6 days in a row of games in that stadium.
Yeah.
So that pitch was already rough as it is, but that's gonna be the match you got to watch to see if Charlotte advances. I think some crazy things, but it's basically if Philly wins, we move on. So you kind of want Philly to win.
That is the short version of it. And if you really want to get deep into the weeds of it, if you need to watch the Orlando. Whoever Orlando's playing match that decides if we host the next match. I read this whole article and I was like, my brain hurts. But I think if the moon phase is correct and Mercury is in the correct house, and Philadelphia wins, we somehow get a home match. I think is what happens.
Great. So I love that explanation. That needs to be the title of the episode is Mercury in the waxing crescent, whatever. So
yeah, there you go.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for doing the show. This is a lot of fun. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed it. And I guess we'll see you next time we have a game.
See you guys.